What's going on, everybody? Today, let's have ourselves a nice little wrestling rant from the wrestling that happened this past week. So we're talking about Monday Night Raw, Tuesday NXT, Dynamite, SmackDown, and Collision, because I've watched some of that too. So, first off on SmackDown, this past Monday. The SmackDown was interesting. I'm glad they lead into Orton, Gunther build. They building that matchup, and that little video package on that was pretty cool. The with Priest and Liv and Dom and Rhea. It was just hilarious seeing Damian Priest standing up there like he was Undertaker behind AJ Styles. That was pretty funny. And Rhea's pretty quick too. I mean, like, well, she was a soccer player, so yeah, she did clear up there pretty fast. So that was pretty fun to watch. I mean, all in all, the show itself was fine. The wide six did their thing. And he stood in the ring and was like, oh, okay. But again, the spooky stuff, not really my thing. But Raw, all in all, was okay. I mean, the matches were the matches. Just everything's building up to the pay-per-views, which is what you should do. You should build up, your matches. I like that they had Braun Breaker be just indestructible like he is. And just wreck shop. I mean, he beat Sam in his 2 out of 3, which was a solid match. It was a solid main event. I was happy with that. So that was the highlights from Raw, pretty much for me. Now NXT, I watched the last hour NXT. I said no, I can't say that. That's not true. I watched maybe like the last 20 minutes of NXT, and I can't remember what happened on it. Sorry, I can't remember. Dynamite. Again, the match, they just, every match, they got to do 600, they got to do every move in their repertoire in every single match. Really? Is it necessary? I mean, I know you got to get your high spots. I understand that. But every single match, you got to do 879 moves to each other for a 2 count. I'm like, Jesus, man, get this over. That was the finish. This is over with. Why is it still happening? I mean, watching some of those matches, man, I'm like, everything's a kick out. Like that is a finish. Swerve's full heel now. He kicked Danielson in the side of the head at the end of Dynamite. I'm like, well, that was something. I mean, MJF, he's about the only one that not only can talk and wrestle. Because, I mean, Swerve, every time I hear him on the mic, just shut up. Man, you sound awful on the mic. Just shut up. And, the epitome of awful, the Young Bucks. That was the match that stood out to me the most. All the AEW match, I mean, the match, they did like 1,001 things per match. The whoopity do. Everyone got to dive. Everyone's got to do all their stuff. Okay. I can watch it if I just want to be purely entertained and watch people do flippity stuff. I can watch it for sheer entertainment, because there are days where I don't mind that. There are days where I can watch that and it'll be palatable for me. The Young Bucks, though, I watched their match from start to finish, and I tried to give it a genuine shot, because I never really watched Young Bucks match through its entirety. I only saw it in clips, because when I see how they finish matches, there's no way I want to see how it started, because an exploding super kick. You kicked him in your shoe, had a little spark jet out of it. What are we doing here? What is this? I see matches with conclusions like that, or I see spots in the match where that is it, and it's a 2 count. I'm out. So I watched their whole match, and judging by how the match was going, you just knew it was going to end in some nonsense. some utter nonsense where they didn't, lose their belts or had to defend them really, or however their little goofy contract is set up. But they suck. The Young Bucks are terrible. They are not good. Their super kicks look stupid. Their whole match is just them doing it. Look, watching them wrestle reminds me of when I would play SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain on my PlayStation 2. That's what it reminds me of. They're doing all this flippity stuff. You're getting your body broken to pieces and just pop up like nothing ever happened. And then you get to do goofy stuff in the process. It doesn't make sense. They do things like they're in a real life video game and there are no consequences. I'm like, this is stupid. And that match was god awful. And that's what stood out. That's what highlighted out of that the most. How bad that match was and how bad their matches are. Next we got SmackDown. I mean, again, the wrestling, the matches were the matches. Nothing too crazy, nothing too noteworthy either. Just keeping it real. Of course, the main event was Roman Reigns coming out, and Roman Reigns got the beatdown from the Samoan Werewolf. So I cannot wait until that clash happens. I mean, they are making Jacob Fatu to be an absolute beast. I mean, the way Ray Roman just handled the Tongans and was handling Solo, but nah, he needs some help for Jacob. And I'm curious to see who they're gonna bring in for him. I want to see when's Jimmy coming back. I mean, they're gonna bring in Zilla. Who else is coming? I want to see how they do it, because that's by far is one of the most interesting things in wrestling right now, the whole Bloodline storyline. Then we got Collision. I finished off my wrestling week with Collision. I got to see Hologram, which is Tony Khan's creation. Got to see him jumping around, do a whole bunch of flippity stuff, which is his jam.
Here's what I've found.
No one's talking to you, Siri. But saw all that nonsense. And then Chris Jericho. It's funny because my wife, who she grew up watching wrestling too, but she wasn't as big a fan as I was when it came to it. But she remembers Chris Jericho. She remembers him well. She remembers Jericho more than Jericho name comes up. She mentions Jericho name with like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's how she remembers Jericho. He was mid promo. I told my wife, hey, I was like, look who, I was like, babe, you remember the wrestler Chris Jericho? I was like, yeah, I remember him. Like, Y2J, Walls of Jericho. I was like, yeah, I just love Jericho. I was like, look at the TV. She looked up and saw him. She just got a gut laugh. She just started laughing and laughing and laughing. Say, he's still doing this? I'm like, yeah, and he's doing it poorly. She listened to his interview. She was like, what was the point of that? I don't know. I don't know. Like, she's like, is he calling himself the Learning Tree? His little group, the Learning Tree? He got merch called the Learning Tree? What is this Learning Tree stuff? I don't know. And I told him, I was like, look, my brother, between me, my brother, and my cousin, we've been fans of wrestling since we were like little kids. So we've studied it, so we can pretty much, we can see what's gonna happen. Wrestling's not hard to predict. We can see where it's going. None of us knows what's happening with Jericho at all. We were like, I don't know whether he's got, we don't know what he's doing in his midlife crisis, because good grief, man. What is this stuff? You've made enough money. Just stop doing it and just training younger generation to be better, because this ain't it. This is not it. And her laughing and saying like, he's still doing this. I was like, yes. And what was his point? I told him, I don't know. It has to have a point to it. It should have a point to it. That makes it that makes it more engaging and more enticing to become involved with when it actually is a point to it. But when it's just no point and just random nonsense happening, you lose interest immediately. So that's my wrestling rant for the week. Come back next week and got another one. Peace.